Speak about myself and not telling lies is very difficult. Because I'm adapted to write stories, and writing stories and being fascinated by stories is all my life story. It's very difficult to write an autobiography because there is no autobiography without lies. So I prefer instead to write a novel instead of writing an autobiography. Then I remembered that I had a project which I still have, which is a very difficult project, which should be not an autobiography, but the story of my relationship to books. When the Lebanese War began, I was a part of that war, and I was a militant in the Palestinian movement and in the Lebanese national movement. What's astonishing is to discover that the first civil war was never written. Never. In Lebanese literature, all the great names who made the Nahda in the late 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, they never spoke about the first civil war because they were ashamed. Of course, it's shameful to be in a confessional war. It's shameful to kill someone because he's a Muslim or because he's a Christian or because he's Druze or whatever. So actually they neglected the civil war. Now if someone want to study the Lebanese civil war, maybe the only real documents about the Lebanese civil war is literature and the works of art. You will not find anything of major value in history or in sociology because the limits of sciences in a confessional society are very big. It's very important not to remember only what happened in 1948 and not to have a memory. It's very important to know the human experience, to know the human dimension of the Palestinian tragedy. It's not only a political struggle, it's not only a struggle between colonialist forces and oppressed peoples. It is a terrible human experience when a people is faced by the fact that at one moment this people will no more exist and his country will no more exist. I mean, the people of the surrounding countries of Palestine. The problem of Palestine became our problem. Technically, it's our problem. We cannot skip it.
If you have to just read one book, I think it has to be Gate of the Sun.
When I worked on that book, I worked 7 years on that book, and I lived in refugee camps. The Gate of the Sun, and I lived in the refugee camps, and I collected stories from people. It was very difficult for them to tell stories first, because these are stories of trauma. It's very difficult for a woman to tell you that she threw her child, because many threw their children in the orchards when they were leaving the country under the Israeli pressure. Entering this field, for me, it was the major school, because for me, it opened the possibilities to understand not only the sufferings of the Palestinians, but to understand my soul, and to understand what is deeply human in this experience.
So how do you think of your own relationship to Islamic culture in the literary sense?
No, this is my culture. I mean,
yeah.
I cannot have a relationship with something which is mine.
Right.
And I think it's totally my culture. I'm part of it, and this new situation, which represents regression and defeat, that is creating question marks, will not change my belief and my feeling. It's not a belief; it's a feeling. I feel this is my culture. Our culture cannot exist without being a combination, without being opened, and if it's closed on only Islamic discourse, the Arabic culture will die. Now the problem of the way of dealing with literature these times is that they are very much interested in the writer, and every time they ask you about your life, as if you are important. You know, if you write a good book, people will forget you and remember the book. The criterion that you are a good writer is when you are forgotten. And people will remember the heroes or the main characters of your novel. Yelled the interrogator. Yes, I can hear. I just can't understand. You've been charged and the charges are serious. What are the charges? You are pregnant, right? Nahila burst out laughing, and the two assistant interrogators looked at her with fury in their eyes. One of them got up, slapped her, and started questioning her in Moroccan dialect. Nahila couldn't understand the word. The Moroccan words spewed from the interrogator's mouth, fell on her ears, and wouldn't go in. The man sat down again, and Nahila was left standing, the slap ringing in her left ear. After a short silence, the interrogator with a classical tongue, sitting at his desk, said he'd been patient long enough. And how can your uncle, the respected sheikh, accept a fallen woman under his roof? Go ask him. Nahila sat down on the ground, cuffs on her hands, laughter fluttering across her face, in the midst of that bizarre interrogation which took place in 3 languages. She sat and told them calmly, after having destroyed everything, how dare you now attempt to defend honor and morals of his children? She told them what she'd said to the interrogator, and the villagers laughed until they cried. They laughed and wept, while Yunus's mother offered everyone glasses of sugared rose water, and from time to time would thrill with joy. Thank you.